Dr.J.Felcia, Theebam, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Armun Pillai, Theebam College, Tirupattur. In this session, we shall see the critical appreciation of the poem Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Robert Frost was a well-known American poet and has won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry 4 times in his life. He was both a farmer and poet. And due to his poor health, he gave up farming and turned to writing poetry. Since he was a farmer, he presents nature in most of his poems beautifully, that he brings the place before our eyes, or he even takes us to that place through his words. And he also uses nature to present the principles and complexities of life. In most of his famous poems, like Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, Mending Wall, and Road Not Taken, he presents nature very beautifully. And also he presents beautiful principles of life. In Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, he presents a principle that everyone in their life has their own wishes and desires, but they could spend only few time for their own enjoyment, as they have many worldly duties to accomplish. Like the poet wants to enjoy the beauty of the snowy evening, but he couldn't, as he has to travel miles. That he represents through his beautiful lines: miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And in Mending Wall also, he presents a beautiful principle of life, that human relationship doesn't need any boundaries, only nature needs. And he wants to break all the boundaries caused by classism, racism, and all. And in Road Not Taken, he says, life gives us many choices, but at one point of time, we are forced to choose only one. Though we want to choose many, it is humanly impossible. And you see, the choice we make makes all the differences in our life, and that decides our destiny. Once, if we choose a path, it will lead us, or it will take us to many byways and subways. That means it creates many ups and downs in our life. In future, we may feel proud and happy for our choice, or at times we may regret too. But the thing is, once we choose a path, we can't come back. All of us, like the poet, wants to know the pros and cons of the choice that we choose. But it is impossible, because only after choosing the path, we come to know all the ups and downs in the path. Here in the poem, The Road Not Taken, we see the poet saw two divergent roads in a yellow wood. These two roads stands for the life with all its complexities. Here, one of the path in the wood, it curves into the bushes, and the other path we find it as grassy and fresh. The poet wants to travel down on both the roads. So he was gazing at it for a long time. But then he realized that traveling on both the roads simultaneously is humanly impossible. So before moving forward on one path, at least he wants to understand how the path was. But he was able to see only a few distance. Though he want to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the path, he see only a few distance from where it got curved. This happens in life too. We have to make decisions at some times or at a time, but we don't know the consequences in the future. Like the poet looked at one path for a long time and to decide whether it is good or not for him. He feels that both the paths are equally good. So at last he decides to choose a path which was grassy and it was chosen only by fewer people. So even in our life, all the decisions has its own consequences. We may think we are in a better position, but sometimes it is good, real, but sometimes it's not. The poet says that the two paths looked similar on that morning. Both were having fresh leaves on them and nobody has walked down on both the roads. So he decided to move forward on one path and keep the other for another day. Also, he knew that if he chose one, he couldn't able to return back because that would lead to many byways and subways. And this happens in our life too. The decision we make will take us to many direction or it will lead us to many direction and it will create many ups and downs in our life. We think that we would get a chance to start over our life if we fail or if we make any mistake. But only through the mistakes we learn many things. But the thing is, we can't come back to the starting point. Here also, the poet says, he will take a deep breath and tell that once in a lifetime, he had to make a tough decision. He was standing at a diversion of two roads, gazing at it for a long time. And he finds both equally well and thus decides to move forward on one road and keep the other for another time. As a result, it has made him what he is today. And that decision has shaped his life and shaped his future. We see the choices we make makes us what we are today. And in this poem also, and in many poems, we see Robert Frost investing ordinary objects, and that too ordinary objects from nature with the profound symbolic significance. See, in this poem, The Road Not Taken, as we see, the road represents the choice that one makes and the deprivations that it results in. And the author says, in future, sometimes we feel sorry for choosing that path and not choosing the other. But the choice we make make many differences in life. That is the reality. That is the principle he presents in this poem, The Road Not Taken. So from this, we can learn that before choosing our path, we have to be very careful, or we have to be careful in choosing our path, or before making decision, we have to think well and choose a path. So I think now we have seen the critical appreciation of the poem Road Not Taken, and you might have understood well. So with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you.